Hey, how's it going everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars Visions Season 2. I watched Season 1 when it first aired, and honestly, I really liked it. It was very different. It's kind of one of those things where you just kind of have to accept it for what it is. It's not going to be like any other Star Wars project. And so I enjoyed the first season, never really got around to the now 3 seasons that are out, so I didn't watch Season 2 and Season 3 until just now. And so I'm going to be talking about Season 2 today, because I finally got to it. So just like I did in my video on Season 1, I'm going to go through these one episode at a time and just list the things that kind of stick out to me in each episode. Some of them are probably going to be a little bit more rapid fire because I'm not going to have as much to say about them. Others I might take a minute or two to talk about a little bit more, so let's just get started. Season 2 feels like it pushes the boundaries even more than Season 1 did, and it really starts in the first episode. I think that the first episode, titled Sith, is very interesting with its use of color and with its use of light in this episode, how that factors into the story, and I think that that just amplifies how everything looks. I like the way that things look in this episode. The action sequences are very cool because of the use of color and light, and honestly, something that stuck out to me when I was watching it was I really liked the way that the lightsabers look. For episode 2, titled Screecher's Reach, when this episode first started, I looked at the animation style and I was like, okay, this is going to be like episode 2 of Season 1. This is going to be like a lighthearted story, just kind of one of those ones that's just fun. But no, Screecher's Reach is my favorite episode of the season, and honestly for me it's a top 5 episode out of Season 1 and 2. Screecher's Reach is great. It's got this sort of suspense, it's got the dark aspect while following this group of kids. It's got a very haunting feeling with those small brief little moments of happiness and of hopefulness, but it kind of gave me that feeling that I felt when I was watching the It movies, where it's very creepy, it's very dark, but you're following this group of kids who have these personalities, and a part of you wants to feel like everything's gonna be okay because this is a story following kids and nothing bad's gonna happen to them, but you've got this sinking feeling that maybe that's not gonna be the case. And even though all of our characters make it to the end of the story, it's got a very foreboding ending because you know that what follows is not happiness. I absolutely love this episode, top 5 in all of Star Wars Visions for me, and I'm still thinking about it. Out of all the episodes I watched in this season, this is the one that keeps replaying in my mind. Episode 3 is titled In the Stars, and I didn't care as much for this episode as the previous 2. I think that there are some interesting things that this episode does. I like the character designs. I think that the world building and the culture building that this episode does is really cool, but unfortunately your lead character is kind of the opposite of the kids of the previous episode. The kid in this episode is annoying. Episode 4, titled I Am Your Mother, is when we finally get our silly episode with nothing super dark happening. This one was done by Aardman Animation, and if anyone has been following this channel for any amount of time, you may remember I went through my whole Aardman Animation phase where I watched both Chicken Run movies, I went through all the Wallace and Gromit projects, and so I've kind of been down the rabbit hole a little bit with Aardman Animation, and so it's just super nice to see them doing something for Star Wars, and it just feels very in keeping with what Aardman Animation has done, both in terms of the way things look and it just being a general feel-good story. Episode 5 is titled Journey to the Dark Head, and this was another one that I feel like is a top 3 episode of this season. I really enjoyed the story of this episode, the characters are good. This is another episode of Visions that I could definitely see being a larger story if they ever decide to make more series out of these episodes like they're doing with The Ninth Jedi that comes out this year. This was another one that I feel like could become a larger story at some point. I love the presentation of destiny and of visions, no pun intended, in this episode. I think those are very well done, and also the music was popping. Episode 6 is titled The Spy Dancer, and this for me was the third of the top 3 episodes of the season. Upon reading the title, I was not convinced that I was going to like this episode as much as I did. I really liked this episode, and I was kind of surprised at how serious the story was and how good the action was. I was expecting this to be another one of those light-hearted stories, but it really wasn't. This was another one of those episodes that could easily fit into canon. I'm glad that none of these Visions episodes are canon, but you know, it's easier to relate it to Star Wars in the way that we know Star Wars when it doesn't contradict anything. Episode 7 is titled The Bandits of Golak, and while I didn't dislike the story of this episode, the look of the animation is what's throwing me off with this episode. It looks like it tried to mimic Clone Wars animation. It doesn't look as good as Clone Wars animation, but unfortunately, in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking of those AI Clone Wars things that are on YouTube. I haven't seen any of those, but this is what I imagine they look like. like. Episode 8 is titled The Pit, and this was a very strange one. It's about the Empire taking a group of people and forcing them to dig a pit in order to find kyber crystals, which the Empire builds a city with and then leaves the people at the bottom of the pit. The story doesn't really make any sense to me. If you're going to have them dig for kyber crystals and you don't want anyone to find out about it, then it seems as though the kyber crystals would be for something more important than building a city. That doesn't really make any sense to me. But I think that this episode is probably more metaphorical for real-world struggles and injustices. But even though that's probably the case, the story at face value needs to make sense. Episode 9 is titled Au's Song. I really like the look of this one. The look kind of matches the feel of the story. It's very feel-good, very wholesome, with a little bit of uneasiness sprinkled in there for sort of the conflict of the story. But overall, it's a wholesome story. It looks really cool. And this was another one of those episodes that isn't a top tier episode out of all the Visions episodes, but it just makes you feel good. Overall, I enjoyed season 2 of Star Wars Visions. I thought it was good, but I did prefer the first season. I personally felt like season 2 maybe wasn't more inconsistent in the quality of the episodes, but it was a lot more inconsistent in my enjoyment of them. I felt like there were some that I didn't really care for, or some that I really did, but I will say that season 2 still had high highs like the first season. Like I said earlier, my 3 favorites from this season are Journey to the Dark Head, Screecher's Reach, and The Spy Dancer, not necessarily in that order. But if you've seen season 2 of Star Wars Visions, what was your favorite from this batch of episodes? And if you're like me and watched season 1 but didn't get to season 2 or 3, I promise there are some great ones in season 2, so you should go check it out if you haven't. But yeah, if you want to help me out here on YouTube, liking this video, commenting on this video, subscribing to the channel, or checking out some of my other videos, all help me grow the YouTube channel. I'm going to be moving on to Star Wars Visions Season 3 pretty soon, and so stay tuned for that. But yeah, until next time. Bye.